Hey traders, Mixer here. Welcome to my weekly Trader Psychology live stream series where I help you with the mental side of trading. The mental side of trading is an important and actually a passionate topic of mine. And what I want to do is today I want to share with you some not so great stories of trading addiction. And trading addiction, what I would tell you, it's real. Lots of people have become addicted to trading. And what I want to share with you today is real life stories of some students that I have worked with one on one that unfortunately have been either leading down to this path and that I would work with them, or they basically have gone through this type of addiction soon after trading. And I'll talk to you and share with you some of these stories, and hopefully you won't experience the same thing. All right, so just before we get started, please consult your financial advisor before making financial decisions. All right, okay, let's get started. So today, what I want to share with you, my story in regards to addiction, and I'll be the first one to admit I have at some point become addicted to trading, where it has consumed my life. So I want to share with you some of the things that I experienced and how I overcame that. And also, I'll share with you some stories of students that I've worked with one on one, traders who have basically um, been caught in a very negative downward spiral, things that I had tried to help them with. And in some instances, I've have helped them. In some instances, they were spiraling out of control, and unfortunately, I was not able to help them, or at least when I was working with them. So what I want to do is I want to share with you, first of all, my stories, and hopefully you um, perhaps may or are able to resonate with some of the stories that I will share with you today. All right, so I want to first of all talk to you guys my trading obsession. Okay, now I will talk to you from a positive point of view, and I will talk to you guys from a negative point of view. So, having an obsession with trading, especially in the beginning, is incredibly good because you basically immerse yourself. You dedicate all your time, you dedicate your focus in terms of learning how to trade and become profitable. And I basically was, in the early stages, became obsessed with trading. Once I discovered trading, and this was back in 1999, 2000, so 20 something years ago, I said, wow, this is trading. And I had a first chance to experience, sudden big wealth, just because I was buying these stocks. And again, for those who don't remember, this was during the dot-com days where basically, some penny stocks with .com on them basically double, triple, quadruple, 10x in a very short period of time. So I discovered this way. Wow, this is incredible. This is, an incredible way or fast way to build wealth, similar to a scenario today with crypto, right? A lot of these altcoins basically don't really provide much value, but because of demand, they shoot up like crazy. So I got this, um, what's the word? I got this feeling, or I got this sudden surge of wealth, right? In terms of being able to turn pennies into dollars, and I wanted it more, right? And that's where I said to myself, I said, well, if I'm able to do this without much knowledge, imagine if I knew what I was doing, how much money I could make. So that's where over the next 3 years, I became obsessed with it. I wanted to learn how to read the charts. I was looking at charts on a day-to-day basis, perhaps like 100, 200 charts per day. I bought every single book, like literally at that time, that was related to trading, and I consumed that knowledge. I tried talking to people who had more experience than me. Mind you, at that time, it was quite difficult to find people who were doing this for a living. I mainly actually talked to more investors. I mainly talked to people who are managing a fund. Not really the type of trading that I was doing, and this was very very short-term trading. But I became obsessed. I put myself in a scenario where I wanted to get as much information out there, pull all the information from people, build my experience. I would wake up early in the morning, 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I would not leave my computer until 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time until the market closed. And again, I was focusing on the North American markets. Essentially, I dedicated a lot of my time into trading, watching to see how the markets work. And also after, when the markets were closed, I would read books, I would try to talk to people, again, review my trades. It essentially became what you could sort of say as an entrepreneur, a full-time business or full-time gig that I was really focusing on. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why you learn very, very quickly. And that's exactly how I was able to develop a lot of skills, a lot of experience in a very short period of time just by being obsessed, right? So that's the really good thing about it. Now, obviously, the bad thing is when you are obsessed, you disregard other things, right? You don't know what's going on in your personal life. You don't really, spend time with your family, with your friends. Friday, Saturday nights, I would be in my front of my computer, looking at charts, doing research on all this stuff, which is great. But then suddenly, it consumes you. It's where you're so narrow focused that sometimes if you take a step back, you would actually probably been able to make better trading decisions. And it got to a point where maybe there's certain days where I didn't even realize that the stock market was open or the US market was closed because of the holidays. And I would wake up early, I turn on my computer, and I stare at all these charts that weren't moving. And I was just wondering to myself, well, why aren't the charts moving? Because it's a holiday. So it got to a point where I felt like withdrawal symptoms if the market wasn't open. I felt that over the weekend I was depressed because the market wasn't open. Just because I became more and more addicted in terms of craving the action, craving the movements, craving the ability, and again just the ability to try or the potential to make money. And sometimes it would get me into scenarios where I really wanted to make a lot of money, and then I put incredible amount of risk, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But essentially, I became so obsessed from a negative point of view that I actually had to take a step back from trading. And I'll share some of those things with you in regards to some of the similar things that some of my students have come across. So trading addiction, obviously, as I mentioned to you, it's real. It's like you're getting a dopamine hit, okay? Whenever you make a trade or whenever a trade results in a profit for you, you feel in the sense of a high. You feel that you got the drug, you get inserted in you, and you got a high from that. So that's why what I was craving, and what a lot of traders do is they crave that price action. They crave the ability to make a profit, just by clicking a button, and they're looking for a hit. Right? They're looking for dopamine hit, and when they don't get it, in the sense that the trade results in a loss, they want to crave. Right? It feels like withdrawal symptoms. They crave the profit hit. So you basically get into another trade. Perhaps the trade wasn't as well planned, and you don't get the hit, right? You get the emotion of putting on the trade, but you don't get the hit in the sense that it results in a profit for you. So you keep trying, right? So then suddenly your losses keep piling further and further. So that's what I mean by trading can be an addiction, and that's where, because you are craving the profit, and then you won't stop until you get a profit. Now, I have been in scenarios, and I've seen some of my students where you make a profit, which is great, right? You get a high from it, but you say to yourself, well, it's not that great of a hit, right? So then you play bigger size, and then you get bigger profits, right? And then and then you get normalized, right, to this type of size, and then you play even bigger, and you get even bigger hit, let's just say from a profit perspective. So it makes you crave even more and more and more, to a point where you are trading way too big of a position size. You are taking on way too much risk, and that will end, right, at some point where it's trading very little, right, increasing the dosage, right, in terms of the size, and then increasing to a point where, yes, okay, you're right, your profit is getting bigger and bigger, but then it'll get to a point where you take on so much risk, and the trade goes against you, and then you lose all your profits. So be aware of trading being a drug to you, right? And sometimes you ask yourself, well, why are you trading? There have been circumstances in the past, especially in my career, where I was trading in and out, and I was just thinking, I asked myself while I was trading, like, because I was scalping, just basically for 10 cents, 20 cents, right, type of thing, or even 5 cents. And it was back and forth trading, right, buy and sell, and accumulating all these commissions for my brokers, right, because brokers love me. And I was asking myself, well, why am I doing this? Like, what's the profit potential? What's the profit target I'm trying to reach? And sure, at that time, I was quite good of a scalper, but I didn't know when to stop. And I was just basically hitting these buttons for no reason. So that's where you need to sometimes take a step back and say to yourself, well, what am I doing? What's my goal? What am I trying to get out of this trade? What are the scenarios that would help me determine whether this is a good trade or not? And then that way you can kind of decide whether, okay, this is a trade that you'll get on or take on, or this trade isn't. So then you're able to manage your emotions and to be able to control yourself. So that's something that, again, very, very important, is know when you get into the zone, or know when you get to the situation where you need a hit, right? You need to get that profit hit to you. And if you get to that stage, you got to really stop and say, listen, this trading is not a drug. This is a business that I need to manage my risk properly. All right. I'll tell you and share with you some stories from some students that I've worked with that have incredible amounts of energy, and they say to us, they say to me, they say, Mike, I want to trade 24/7. I don't want to miss out on any opportunities. I am a young person, and I don't need much sleep, and I can trade, 3 different markets at a time. So I'll share with you a story. Working with this very ambitious young trader when I was in Toronto, and he said, I want to trade 3 markets. He was trading the currency markets. Now, the currency markets, if you're familiar with the Forex market, they do trade 24/7, 5.5 days a week. So he wants to trade the currencies markets, North American time, where he wants to trade the U.S. currencies. And then when the US market closes, he wants to trade the Asian currencies. And then when the Asian currencies are getting to close, he wants to trade the European currencies. So he wants to trade 3 markets. And again, I was working with this trader, incredible. He's incredibly smart trader, very, very ambitious. Reminds me a little bit of when I was younger, in the sense of he's obsessed, right? And obviously, once I found out that he was trading these 3 markets, I told him, listen, don't trade these 3 markets. You don't need to try to capture every single opportunity. And I was telling him, don't do it. Now, he didn't believe me, so he traded those 3 markets. So what he would do is, between the time when the markets are a little bit slower, transitioning from one market to another, or Asian time zone, he would only sleep maybe like an hour or 2 hours, take a nap, and then he would get up for the next trading session, trade for a couple hours, and then take a nap, and then trade for the next session. So he would do that 5 days a week. Now, this trader who I worked with, as I said, very, very smart trader, was able to help him with some of the technicals, so he was making money. Now, mind you, Saturday, Sunday, he would basically, sleep in and be so exhausted that he was not able to have much energy to do anything else on the weekend. And then on Sunday night, he would start trading the Asian market sessions when it opens on Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. Now, what I said to him, I said, you don't need to, you're so obsessed with, and you're so addicted to trading, you don't need to trade to all these markets. You just need to choose one market that you really are focusing on and really get to know. And the way to make because he was saying, I want to make more money, I want to capture all these opportunities. Well, it's not necessarily the amount of opportunities that you want to capture, it's about the size of the opportunities that you're trying to capture. So I was working with him and said, listen, trust me, just focus on one specific market. So he focused on the European market sessions. And I told him, you're a good trader. Now, instead of trying to capture all these small opportunities with smaller amount of capital, when you do see an opportunity that you like, play a little bit bigger. And in the end, long story short, is he was able to make the same amount of money trading in one trading market session relative to trading all three sessions. So it's the rationale of quality versus quantity. And again, as I got to know him better, and he actually started changing his style. He started actually trading less, and he actually started making more money. So to me, I was able to help him realize that actually the more number of hours that you trade does not equate to more profits. All right, some more other stories that I want to share with you. So this is again unfortunate circumstances where I met this trader. He told me this story where he refused, or he did not believe in putting stop losses. And for some of you who aren't familiar with stop losses, they're basically orders to get you out of the position at a loss, or at least a small loss, instead of incurring a big loss. So this gentleman who really believed in a specific stock didn't put a stop loss, so he initially had only a $500 loss. Now, $500 loss to him was manageable. It's not something that he wouldn't be able to stomach, but he refused to. He said, listen, this company is good. They're not going to go under. They're going to rebound. Now that $500 loss suddenly became, and very, very quickly, because the company stock kept going against him and went lower, suddenly became $1,000 loss. Okay, so now he's basically saying, well, $1,000 loss, I'm not going to take that loss for sure. And then suddenly it became a $2,000 loss. And at that scenario, he says, this is, instead of changing his mindset, that this company stock is not recovering, it's keep getting lower, is he said, this is a bargain, I want to buy more. So he actually bought more of the stock. And you can kind of see where this is heading, is suddenly the loss became $5,000 and then suddenly $10,000, and he even doubled down even more, to the point where he actually, when all is said and done, he actually was trading with margin, and he lost his entire portfolio, which was $250,000. So this is a scenario where he refused to take a $500 loss, and it resulted in him losing his entire portfolio, because you could sort of say he was upset, or sorry, I wouldn't say obsessed, but he believed in the company so much that he refused to sell, and he refused to believe that the company stock will not rebound. And unfortunately, I will share with you the story is that actually, when he did finally get kicked out of his position due to a margin call, because he was borrowing money from the broker, and the losses basically exceeded $250,000, soon after the company stock actually recovered. and started going higher. So this is a scenario where he did not look at the charts, did not manage his risk properly, and essentially lost his entire portfolio. Versus a scenario where, let's say, hey, the company's stock is not doing well, so I'll take that $500 loss. Let me wait until it stops going lower and starts recovering before I get back in. Now, in that type of scenario, he would have been able to manage his risk well, and in fact probably result in him growing his $250,000 portfolio. So this is in some form of addiction, is because he refused to take a very small loss, and it actually resulted in him losing his entire portfolio. And I lost in touch with this trader, but he probably did not touch any stocks anymore, or went back to the financial markets anymore, just because of this excruciating loss to his entire portfolio. All right, moving on next. So I'll share with you a great story and then suddenly not so great story. So I met this trader after what he did here. So he was able to turn $25,000 into $1 million in a very short period. Sorry, I wouldn't say short period, but over a year's time. Been very steadily growing it, and again, an incredible feat, turning $25,000 into $1 million, and unfortunately, he within a month lost the entire amount, just because he doesn't know when to stop. So again, very similar to what I mentioned earlier in terms of my experiences, is what are you trading for? What's the end goal? What's the profit amount that once you get to there, you're comfortable with, and maybe take some profits off the table, or maybe stop trading. And that's why, you may have heard me say this in my live streams or in my videos, is you got to have a goal in mind. Now, obviously with trading, there's unlimited potential, right? There's unlimited amounts of money or profits you can generate, but you at least have to know, well, how much, right? Is it 1,000, 10,000, a million, 10 million, 10 billion, right? What is that amount? And obviously you don't know how much you will make, but at least once you do get there, well, how much are you willing to risk to try to make more? Now, so this is a gentleman, again, 1 year, it took 1 year, 25,000 to $1 million, then suddenly in less than a month, he gave it back all. So in total, he actually ended up losing $25,000. So this is a scenario, as I said, is he couldn't stop. Obviously, once he got, when I asked him that, I said, well, what was your target, 25,000? Well, I mean, if I can make 100,000, that would be great. And then he reached it. So then he said, okay, well, I want to set another target. Okay, well, what's your next target? Well, 250 or 300. And then he got there. And then he increased it, right, to $1 million. Then he got there. And then he increased it to 10 million once he made his first million. Now, there's nothing wrong with that concept, right? You're increasing your profit targets, right? Because once you reach it, you set a higher target. Once you reach it, set a higher target. Nothing wrong with that. What he did wrong was, when he made up to $1 million, and let's just say he wants to make 10 million, the next trade that he got, it resulted in him losing $100,000. So now he's down to 900. Now, obviously, he said to himself, well, earlier I had $1 million. Now I only have $900,000. So let me try to make that back. So suddenly that 900,000 suddenly, because of his losses, now became 700,000. Now he said to himself, well, earlier it was $1 million. Now I'm down $300,000. I got to make that back, right? So you can kind of see the story. It suddenly became 500,000. Suddenly it became 200,000. Suddenly became zero, because he didn't know how much he should keep. Like once you, let's just say, reach $1 million, and you're trying to target, let's just say, another million, let's just say 2 million. Well, how much are you willing to risk of your profits to try to make more of that? So you could say, well, I want to make another million, but I'm only going to risk, let's just say 100,000. Okay, out of that 100,000 of the million, if my portfolio gets down to $900,000, I'm going to stop. Okay, he didn't do that. So that's why instead of looking at, hey, I made $900,000, his mindset was, I just lost $100,000. I need to make it back. So when he had that mentality, he tried to chase, right? I want to make $100,000 back. And it, making 100,000 in short period of time involves lots of risks that you need to take. So what he did was he started obviously playing bigger positions, went against him, and that's why suddenly he lost $200,000. So you got to know what's your tolerance before you try to aim for higher profits. So again, the addiction is he just didn't know when to stop. That's the bottom line. All right. Lots of obviously negative stories here, but again, trading addiction is a real thing. All right, I have lots of guys. Okay, they are constantly watching the markets. They are trading crypto, which is 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are trading the indices, which are also traded almost 24/7. Sorry, 24 hours a day, 5.5 days a week. Or they're trading forex or currencies that are also trading 24 hours and 5.5 days a week because they are closed on Friday early evening and they reopen Sunday afternoon Pacific Standard Time. So they become obsessed. Now, obviously, you watching the markets all the time, it's not going to suddenly change because the direction, just because you're watching it. And again, I've worked with traders who obsess, right? They can't stop watching, which is understandable. Let's say you have positions in Bitcoin right now, like Bitcoin's trading very actively. You want to monitor it, right? You want to, okay, well, what's the trading right now, right? Every minute, okay, what's it doing, right? You don't need to. You don't need to do that. If you are in a position and you have your stop loss in place, right? Exit if it goes against you. You maybe perhaps have profit targets, right? And you can obviously increase the profit targets or move up your stop loss, right? Adjust it along the way. But you don't need to constantly be watching. And I've worked with students who are so obsessed, right? They have insomnia. They're not sleeping at night, so that when they wake up early in the morning to trade, they feel exhausted because they've been watching the markets and constantly thinking, oh, what is it doing? Is it going against me? Is it going in my favor? Where should I take profits? All that stuff. There's no need to do that, right? You set all your pending orders there in case certain scenarios happen. Now, obviously, there will be circumstances where you put your stop loss, it goes against you, kick you out, and then it rebounds, right? In your favor, and you have to readjust and get back in. Okay, I get that. You need to watch it to see whether your stop loss is going to be triggered, or maybe as it keeps going high, you maybe want to increase your profit targets and all stuff. So I get that, but there's no point just because the markets are open. You need to constantly be looking at the markets. So what I suggest, and some of these ideas already suggested, is you set your pending orders, you leave it, and maybe again, if you're in the position, check it couple of times a day, or again, depending on the type of trader you are. I mean, obviously, if you're day trading, you can, you're watching, right, trying to take advantage of certain opportunities throughout the day, but you don't need to sit the entire, day trading session, right? Let's just say if you're trading the North American markets from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 4 p.m., you don't have to sit through the entire market, right? You want to be able to get some rest, right? And so there's certain time periods in the markets where you might need to take a break and all that stuff. So that's one thing that I mentioned, is that you don't have to be constantly monitoring the markets. You essentially maybe perhaps know when it's most active, just focusing on that period of time. Or if you're a swing trader, who cares, right? You can just look at your positions, once or twice a day, because you're trying to hold for longer periods of time. All right, last one before I get started. Again, I've been kind of going a lot more time than today. Again, if you guys have any questions, please type them in the question box below. All right, so the last one I want to share with you. Okay, a very, very common thing, unfortunately, among trading addicts is gambling. Okay, I unfortunately have seen and work with some students uh, lose their life savings, okay, on gambling in the markets or speculating in the markets. I have seen people who take up personal loans to fund their trading accounts and lost it all, where suddenly, instead of just losing all their money, they now owe the bank money. And also, unfortunately, I have seen scenarios where people actually take out second mortgages on their homes to try to fund their trading account and lose it all. And unfortunately, I have seen scenarios where people have lost their homes and also resulted in divorce, okay, because the trader had essentially lost all their life savings and actually owe money to the bank. So this is where it suddenly becomes serious, very, very serious, where I always say is, whenever you press a button, whenever you trade, there is risk. Now, that risk you have to be comfortable with no matter what happens. And that's why people become addicts in trading, because they're just obsessed. They're not trading because of sound knowledge, sound experience. And this is why people say trading the financial markets is gambling, because people who are doing these type of activities in the way that I'm not suggesting, that is gambling, because you're speculating. You're not relying on your previous knowledge. You're not relying on your experience. You're not controlling your risk. Your mindset is thinking as a gambler rather than thinking trading has a business. So that's why I hope none of you experience that, or at least are aware of that, so that when you feel that you have been addicted or you are becoming obsessed with trading, that you keep that in mind. And that's also when I suggest for newbies who are trading, start funding your account with just money that you can afford to lose, even if you have access to a lot, and only add to that business or only add to that account once you are profitable. So if you keep blowing out your accounts, only blow out whatever that you can afford. Okay. And again, imagine where you put all your life savings into one account, and just due to some emotional state that you're in, or suddenly become addicted and you're revenge trading, you're doing things that are basically against all rules in the markets, that's when you become, you have a high chance of failing and essentially losing all your money. All right, guys, so let me know if you guys have any questions. So next week, I will talk about my biggest regrets in trading. What I wish I knew when I first started. And I can tell you I have lots of regrets, okay? Lots of regrets, lots of things to share with you guys. So please make sure that you attend the next session, or next week's session, my biggest regrets, what I wish I knew. All right, so I have one question here from Suban. Trading setup or setup of the rules can help us in building good psychology, and journalizing every trade is important to improve on. Yes, of course. So I do believe in journaling. Journaling, I mean, you're just writing your thoughts. Once you start writing your thoughts, you start to realize, holy smokes, I am becoming obsessed. I'm becoming addicted to trading. I'm constantly trying to like while you're journaling, journaling all your trades, and then you start realizing what what's wrong with me, right? And so in some sense, it's self therapy, right? You're realizing that you're over trading, or you're trading, in terrible setups, and you realize that you are becoming, or you're heading down the road of becoming obsessed. Okay. Um, yeah. Philippe says, yeah, thank you for your thoughts. You are very, very welcome. All right. So again, make sure attend my next week's weekly live sessions. My biggest regrets, what I wish I knew. Thank you all for joining me on this Sunday. I hope you guys enjoyed my stories. And again, I have so many stories that I want to share with you over my 25 plus years of experience. And again, if you guys have any type of psychological mindset challenges, please message me. Love to help you conquer them and be able to overcome these obstacles. All right, guys, thank you so much.